guys, I wanted to teach you how to record vinyl records. A lot of people are into it these days. I think there's something to be said about the quality, or at least the, some sort of nostalgic, sentimental value of vinyl. So, that being said, I do think it sounds better. That's just my personal opinion. I mean, it depends on how much you invest in your components and things like that, but I'm not here to debate that. Whether you have a record player or not, you might want to record your record player, is what I'm trying to say, into your computer for longevity purposes, for convenience, to put it in your car, to bring your records with you wherever you go, and then listen to the original format when you get home. So that being said, the first thing to do is make sure you have a record player, make sure you have an audio interface, make sure you have some pretty good length RCA cables. I would say you need two sets of long RCA cables. By long, I mean somewhere around the length of 6 to 10, possibly even longer. Don't want to go longer than 12 to 15 feet because you'll start to degrade the audio quality. Of course, you need a phono preamp if your record player does not have line out signal, which most don't, so you will have a phono preamp. So there's your third set of RCA cables. So to connect all this together, you have your turntable, okay? You have your phono preamp, and you have RCAs, hopefully a short run, very short, to keep the low level signal coming out of your turntable as good quality as possible. So you have your phono preamp now. You go from the turntable, you go into the input of the phono preamp, you come out of the phono preamp, you go into the front left and right inputs of your audio interface. Now, sometimes you might need something like an adapter, like one of these guys. This is an RCA to 1/4-inch TRS adapter, because sometimes you don't have an RCA in your audio interface. So you put the left on the left, and you put the right on the right, or channel 1, channel 2. The other cable is basically so you could hear what's happening with your recording. So you have the outputs from your audio interface going to your speakers. So there's the configuration. I will jump into Pro Tools a little later. I'll dabble in screen recording and try to show you how to set up your sessions so that you could record and also do a few leveling tricks that I've learned. It's just basically use a limiter. You can normalize the audio, but it doesn't quite get loud enough. So use a limiter and make the volume loud enough, but don't actually compress it. You don't want to actually limit your sound per se. You just want to make it louder. And then you're going to cut up the files. You're going to export them, and it's a lot of work, but it's done once, and you're pretty much done forever. So let's go into Pro Tools and do a sample recording. Hey guys, how's it going? I just wanted to jump into Pro Tools, and assuming that you have your record player connected to your audio interface, your audio interface is connected to your computer, and everything is connected properly, wired up. This is how you would set up your Pro Tools session. So you just go into Pro Tools, create a new session. Now, just call it what you're gonna call it. I usually call it artist name dash album name. So this one's gonna be test artist dash first album. Okay, so you would actually replace this with your actual artist and actual album name. I'm going to do local storage. I'm going to store it in my Pro Tools folder, and just to be honest with you, I think higher sample rates matter. So if you have a computer that can handle 192 32-bit float, go for it. You're not going to regret it. You're going to have bigger files by a long shot, but it's all worth it when you're trying to capture the analog sound of a vinyl record. So let's go ahead and create this session. Okay. Now let me just make sure. I'm assuming I set up my playback engine to use. I did not. So I'm going to use my Scarlett interface, which is my recording interface. So I'm going to reopen. Also, hardware buffer size. Probably the larger buffer is going to be better because it's going to have less resources usage on your computer. It doesn't really matter so much because you're not recording an actual instrument. You don't care about latency at this point. You just care about getting the audio into your computer. So I'm going to do a large buffer size. There's obviously goes down to 128 here. So wait a minute. And okay. So now you have a blank session. And my computer's thinking a little bit. Okay guys, a little hiccup there. Turns out I am using my audio interface to record this audio for the video we're creating, so I couldn't actually use that in the demo purposes here. So let's just assume that your audio interface in your setup playback engine is configured to be the interface of choice. So I'm using another interface at this time. So what you do then is just create one audio track that's stereo. So track new, stereo, audio track. It doesn't really matter what you call it because you're only creating one of them. And then make sure the input is assigned. So I can show you that, you would just give it the input interface. All right, I can't choose it here because it's not an actual audio interface that we're using, but you would just choose input 1, 2, for example. The editor window, all you have to do is just hit record and then hit record up here. Okay. Once this track starts recording, you're going to get red, that indicating that the track is getting recorded. Go over to your turntable, turn it on, and drop the needle and just let it play all the way through one side. Let it play all the way through the other side. Don't worry about stopping the recording. Don't worry about doing anything to the audio, except just let it play, let it record. One thing I can say for sure is that you want the left and right channels to be the same level. What I've done to do that is set the input to line and set the volume at the very lowest on both sides, left and right. This is going to enable that the audio is the same volume on both sides. You don't have to worry about listening by ear or visually trying to get the knobs to line up exactly. All the way down on both sides is fine, because what we're going to do, the next step is limit. So let me jump into an actual record that I recorded recently and show you what I'm talking about. Okay guys, this is a Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA. My wife likes this album, so she asked me to record it for her for the car. So as you can see, this is a full album. There's side 1, there's side 2, and you can see that there is each song, the different songs, where there's a space in the waveform. You know that's the in between the different songs. You can see in the beginning that there's the needle drop. There's a little bump there, and then let me zoom in so you can kind of see this a little bit. So there's a little bit of silence because we hit record with that, and then I walked over to the record player. There's a bump where the needle was dropped, and then the music starts playing. I can't really play it for you because copyright reasons, but here's track 2. Here's track 3. What I like to do is, like I said, record the whole album, and then what you need to do now, since I told you already, record all the way at the lowest volume, You need to get this up to, commercial levels to mix with, all your other songs. So popping over to the mix window, I threw on a limiter. What you want to do is make sure, set the output to just under 0 dB, because there's a little bit of window where it could clip it. I don't think it really matters if you stick to 0 dB. I usually do about 0.1 to 0.5 or whatever, 0.05. Threshold, you bring it down to the point where you're not compressing anything up here, because this is already a mastered song you are listening to. All you want to do is just get the levels up to where the peak audio signal is coming just under the 0 mark here. Okay, let's assume that you got your limiter set up. What I'm going to do is run commit, and you can do you can do it real time, and you're gonna have to wait the entire length of the record. You might get a slight bump in quality because it takes time to process. I typically don't have the patience for that. I just commit it offline. Okay, it takes a few minutes to say the least. It just takes a few minutes, depending on how fast your computer is or whatever. And then once you bounce it offline, you end up with something like this. This is a you could say it's normalized, but I didn't use the normalization process. It's just a louder audio. The peak levels are going to be right around 0 dB. Okay, the RMS is going to be somewhere around -15 to -10. All right, so then the next thing you're going to do, now that you have this entire track at the right volume, you need to splice it up into each individual song so that you have it for so you can skip around and stuff in your whatever you're listening to the audio on. You could listen to it as an entire record in one gigantic file, but I don't recommend that because the files are really large and it's just a pain to jump around. So what I do is I jump on Discogs. Okay, I go to the album. Make sure you get the right version. I'm pretty sure this is the version right here. Yep. And you just look at the names of the songs and how long they are, and you know about where you're looking here. So I've already gone through and split up these files, and I will scan through and show you that there's track 1. What you do is you click right before the file, and you can kind of scrub to find out where the beginning of the song is. But you go right to the beginning of it, and you click your all-purpose tool here, and you just basically, when you get to the point where you want to split it, just do separate. And go through each track, separate, separate, separate. You also want to delete the silence in the beginning and the needle drop, and you want to delete the silence at the end and the silence in between the side 1 and side 2 of the record. Delete all that stuff, so all you're left with are the actual tracks at the length they're supposed to be. If you click on the track and you switch this to minutes and seconds, you can see right here the length of the song, 4 minutes and 39 seconds. If I go to Discogs, Born in the USA, it's 4 minutes and 39 seconds. It looks like I cut the song in the right spot. The reason why I recommend using Discogs is because sometimes songs are kind of like blended a little bit. You don't really know where when one song ends and another one begins. Not the case with this album, but other albums can be a little tricky. So you want to know exactly how long the tracks are, so you know you're doing the right cut. So yeah, I cut each song up, and then just double click on each track, give it the name. I gave it 01 for the track number dash the name of the track. It's pretty much all you need. The basic important thing to do is put the number there that keeps the tracks in order. Then what you do after you named all your tracks, go to your clips window, go click on the first one, click shift, click on the last song, right mouse click, and just say export clips as files. Once you export clips as files, you can save it to your hard drive location. You know, I'm not actually going to go in depth and detail what to do next, but what I'm going to say is what I recommend doing. Compress the files using FLAC or Apple Lossless. Definitely use a lossless format. The program I use on my Mac is, I think it's called Media Human. Let me see where it is. It's a free program, Media Human Audio Converter. It's a pretty good program. It seems to do the job. All you have to do is select. I do Apple Lossless because I'm on a Mac and it seems to integrate a little better. It's no different than FLAC when it comes to audio quality. Compress it. It'll shrink the file size dramatically. And then you're going to need to edit the tags. I actually bought for like, I don't know, $12 or something, a tag editor program. There's a free version of it. But you load the files in here, and you can go like, download the metadata about the files and the artwork, and give the file names. You could change the file names to be more substantial than just 01-song name. One thing I typically do, and you don't have to do this, but what I do is I just put parenthesis vinyl in all the file names, because that just lets me know that this is not the CD version. This is not the digital version that was put out there by Bruce Springsteen, for example. It's the vinyl version, so it's going to have a little bit different tone and a little bit different mastering maybe, and I just distinguish it that way. Hope this was helpful. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. If you're interested in this sort of thing, then it might have been helpful. And if you don't have a Mac and you have a Windows machine, I'm sure the same principles apply. It's just different commands. But good luck translating your vinyl into digital. Thank you.